Welcome back, everyone. You're looking at a slightly exasperated lesbian RD because I recorded this video yesterday and then started to edit it today and realized that I recorded it without sound. I'm doing it again. So, what this video is going to be me talking about some of the changes that happened from the books to the show, changes I liked, changes I didn't like. And when I tried to find another way to do this, things got really, really unwieldy. So I thought that the easiest, most organized way to do this would be a tier list. I asked members of my Discord to help me compile a list of changes. This is obviously by no means exhaustive, but these are the changes that are of most interest to me, seem to be of most interest to my Discord members, and or just things that I've heard a lot of people talking about. And hey, editing lesbian jumping in here because in my frustration with having to record this video twice, I forgot to include a spoiler warning. This video is going to contain spoilers through to the second to last book in the Wheel of Time. I think it's Towers of Midnight. So from the prequel to the second to last book. So if you haven't finished all of those books, I do not recommend this video, but the rest of you, enjoy. This is the tier list format that I have. Obviously, it's not my typical tier list format. Couldn't get the website to work. I don't know why. But I can't change the name, so I will just explain to you what these are. S is going to be a superb change, a change that doesn't necessarily mean that it's better than the books. It just means that I think that this is a really smart, savvy. Ooh, savvy's even better. A savvy change for the show. A change that works really, really well for the medium of television versus the medium of a book. A is going to be a good change. Don't think it's like amazingly savvy, but it's still a good change for the show. B, C, and D. These are all going to be similar rankings of things that I don't think that they are significant changes. They don't really have a lot of ripple effects out onto the show, onto the plot line, I should say. They are changes that I understand why they made them for the show, or changes that I just don't think are that consequential. B is going to be a change like that I like, that I think is a good change. I enjoy it. C is going to be a change that I don't think is that important, and I really don't care. Good, bad, don't really care. D is going to be one of those changes that I don't think is that important. I understand why they made it, but I don't like it. That's going to be that one. And then F is going to be a change that I hate. I think it is important, and I hate it. So, with that out of the way, let's get into it.
Let's be nerdy, bitch. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy. Let's be nerdy, bitch. Let's be nerdy, bitch. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy, bitch.
All right. First change is going to be, Rand and Egwene's relationship. I think that this is a good change for the show. I think it raises the stakes of their relationship. In the books, I constantly forget that they were a couple at the beginning. They don't read as a couple to me. The only thing they do like a couple is fight. Other than that, they don't read like a couple, and people will have to remind me, oh no, they broke up. And I'll be like, what? So I think this is a good change. It raises the stakes for everyone involved, specifically the two of them, and you need that tension for a television show. You need that to be able to captivate people. Lan and Nynaeve, changing their relationship. I actually don't think it's changed as much as a lot of people seem to think that it has. I think this is a superb, savvy, smart change. At the end of Eye of the World, in case you forgot, Nynaeve proposes to Lan. To me, a proposal is much, much further along in a relationship than a kiss or sex. Like, if I had a friend who was, like, into a guy and after a month and a half told me that they had sex, I'd be like, good for you. If they told me that they proposed, sorry, that's just so much further along in their relationship. The only thing that they've done is update it. Two Rivers is a purity culture in the books. In the show, it's not. So, if it's not a purity culture, then it would be weird that they weren't having, it would just be weird if they just never had sex. The will they, won't they, the slow burn with them, in my mind, in the books, was never about them being in love or even being a couple. It was more about whether or not they would get to be together. And I think that is still very much the case. The next change. Okay, Layla. Perrin being married and Layla and then killing his wife. I hate this change. I absolutely hate it. I actually kind of think I know why they did it, but I still hate it. I don't think it needed to be his wife. It's just all the ripple effects out from that. Like, I don't like that they included the whole he has feelings for Egwene in that. Like, I don't like it at all. But it leads to the next thing that is Perrin's storyline. I've started to put these together in my mind based on some stuff that I heard Brandon Sanderson say during the watch party for the finale that he did on his channel and on the Dusty Wheel. It's really cool. You should watch it because he has a lot of insight, obviously, because he's been involved in the show. But one of the things he said was when he first read the script for episode 1, he said, like, if you do this, if you have Perrin accidentally kill his wife in episode 1, he can't really do anything for the rest of the season because it would not be realistic. He will be traumatized. And then he also talked about how they very much hid what he is. They hid his wolf brother thing because if they revealed it really early, it would be very obvious that he wasn't the dragon, which is true. And so I understand a little bit more why they had him go through that trauma, because I think they did it on purpose. I think having Perrin be okay to engage in acts of violence like he does in the books after having accidentally killed someone he loves in episode 1 would have felt like Perrin has no soul. He just doesn't care. Like that. So they needed to do this. But what it meant was that Perrin's storyline got kind of, it's sidelined. Like he barely has anything to do in season 1. He's just recovering from trauma and having really amazing conversations with Maria Doyle Kennedy. So for this one, I understand it. I kind of don't like it. I do understand it though. I know why they've done it. I think I could be wrong, but I think I understand why they did it. It just, poor Perrin, like he barely gets anything to do. The next one here, aging up the characters. I chose this picture because they're drinking alcohol. I couldn't think of an image for aging up the characters. I think this is a good change. I kind of almost want to put it in doesn't matter, but it does. It does matter. Like it actually affects how they behave. I will also point out, as someone pointed out to me in my Discord somewhere, they didn't actually age up the boys. They only really aged up Egwene. But they did age up their personalities. If you read the books, they read like children a lot of the time. Their personalities in the show are much more mature. And I think if they behaved in the show the way they behave in the books, it would be annoying. Like, no, like it would be irritating. So aging up their personalities, making them a bit more mature, makes more sense. Okay, the next one here I have Women's Circle, and I actually included Women's Circle and Beltane in my thoughts here because they changed both of these traditions in the show versus the books. In the books, the Women's Circle is like they have some authority in the town. In the show, it just seems to be like a coming of age thing. You're a woman now. There is no indication that they have authority, which, by the way, for people who are upset that they showed the Women's Circle and not the Village Council, thinking that they showed the Women's Circle showing them to have authority, watch it again. There is no indication in the show that they have any authority in the town. Like that, there's nothing like that at all in the show. You are taking your book knowledge, using it to look at the show, and then assuming bad intent. They showed the Women's Circle and not the Village Council because there are 2 women in it. 2 main characters in it. There are no main characters from the show in the Village Council. That would have been wasting screen time, showing a bunch of old men talking about something, and those old men would not show up in any further episodes, maybe not until many, many seasons down the line. So it would be a waste of screen time to show the Village Council. And they changed the nature of the Women's Circle so that they weren't showing these women have power. It's a nonsense argument. But I like that they changed the lore of the Women's Circle, and I loved the change to Beltane because both of them, they gave more depth. Like Beltane in the books, very, very fun, but it just seems like a party. It doesn't have like a depth of culture. And the Women's Circle, you know, they are in leadership, but they are in contrast to the Village Council. In this, it's just giving us a little insight into Nynaeve and Egwene's personality. It gives us justification for Nynaeve and her braid tugging. It gives us this idea that Egwene is coming into her womanhood at this moment. This scene gives us a lot about 2 characters. This change gives us a lot. I think this is a very good change for the show. Next, the Dragon Reborn mystery. Who is the Dragon Reborn? I think this is good. I think this worked really, really well. Every non-book reader that I have seen on YouTube, like the reactions watching it, and the 2 people I know who watched the show, like personally I know non-readers who watched the show, they all got into that. Like, it engaged them. It made that they liked speculating and guessing. They liked pulling clues. It worked. Like, people who don't like this as a mystery, it worked. It worked. It also allowed the show to do something that the first book doesn't do. The rest of the books do this. First book is not very much of an ensemble piece. All of the rest of the books are very much an ensemble, but the first book is very much the Rand show. It's almost entirely in Rand's head. This, having it be a mystery, allowed the story to show us all of them. Very smart choice for the show. Okay, next one here. This is the appearance of the cast. They don't look like their book counterparts. Moiraine is tall. Lan doesn't have ice blue eyes. Whatever. Anyway, I think this is a change. It doesn't matter. They stuck to it with the one member of the cast whose appearance actually mattered. But I like it. It's a good change. I will say, I said this before the show came out in a video for a long time ago. Having a diverse cast would make people who are not used to seeing themselves in this genre feel welcome. If you watch any reaction videos by people of color, like who have never read the books, most of them will comment on this. Most of them will say, one of the reasons that they wanted to watch this show, or one of the things that they like about it, is that it's a diverse cast and it makes them feel welcome, makes them feel like they can imagine themselves in this world. It's drawing in an audience that don't normally feel welcome in this world. So it's a good change. It's a smart, it's a savvy change for the show. Excluding people, like making people feel like you can't really be in this world, is a dumb thing to do. Next, here I have Thom's introduction, is what I call this. Thom is introduced later. He's introduced in a different way. I keep bringing up Wheel Takes podcast in my videos. You really should be listening to this, especially their episode. I mean, their podcast is genius in general. I love it. It's super fun. But their episode breakdowns of the show, Allie works in screenwriting. She studied screenwriting in school, and then now she works in the entertainment industry in the area of screenwriting. So she's breaking down all the episodes from a screenwriting perspective. And one of the things she mentioned is that in any given episode, you do not want to introduce more than 7 characters. It's too much for people to handle. And in the first episode, it's 7 characters. It's the 5 Two Rivers crew, Moiraine and Lan. That's 7. You don't want Thom in there because people are just not going to be able to hold all that information in their heads, so they introduced him later. It's perfect. It works. I honestly don't think it matters. But it's a good change. Oh, there we go. The next Thom one I have here, because for me, I don't know if other people feel this way, but for me, most of the characters on the show, I see, like, the line between their book versions and their show versions are very blurry. I can see their book versions present in their show versions. Thom is the one that I don't. Book Thom and show Thom to me are very, very different. One is not better than the other, but book Thom is a lot more exuberant. He's almost camp at times. Show Thom is a lot more dour and gritty. I like them both, though. Like, this to me, it's weird. I'm going to say it doesn't matter so far. Now, all of these, like, probably could all be a wait and see. Maybe later on it'll matter. But for right now, having the personality of Thom in the show be so different from the personality of Thom in the books doesn't matter because they're both doing the same thing. Okay, Nynaeve's backstory. I don't know that we actually get, like, I've been trying to remember since this came up in the show when we get Nynaeve's backstory in the books. I don't know that we get much. We know that her dad taught her to track, and that the wisdom raised her, which I guess means that we somehow must know that her parents died. But that's about it. We don't really get a backstory from her. Having her have a backstory like this, story that the wisdom told her, that her parents died screaming and she heard them and couldn't do anything. I think this is a very, very smart change for the show, especially that it gives her something that mirrors with Lan, which, gives more foundation for their relationship, because as much as I love their relationship in the books, we don't get to see it building. We don't get to see what they have in common. So we just see it at the end, and it's perfect. It's lovely. It works. But when we actually are getting to see it, having some connection between them, I think it works really, really well. Plus, it sets up a lot more her distrust of the Aes Sedai, because a lot of people find that distasteful. They point against Nynaeve in the books. This makes it make more sense. It still comes off as a bit unreasonable, especially later on when we see Siuan and we realize that she's wrong. Like, her whole belief about the Aes Sedai is wrong. But I think this is a really smart change for the show. I'm actually going to change it. I think last time I put that in good, but I'm putting it up here in savvy right now. Next, Matt's backstory. I feel so conflicted about Matt's backstory. I think it is, it's a very, very good change for the show if you remember reading the books. If you remember, most people when they read the books, they don't like Matt until book 3. One of my friends who has just now started the books told me, like, she actually said to me, he's so much better in the show. I don't like book Matt. Like, show Matt, I care about him. I don't care about him in the books. This, to me, I'm conflicted about it because I like the idea of having read all the books. When I go back and read Eye of the World, I can see Matt's personality. I can see his inherent, I'm a good guy. I'm always a good guy in him in Eye of the World. But you only see that if you have known him for a long time by having read these books for a long time. The first time, there's not anything to hold on to. There's nothing in him, in his character to grab onto, hold on to like. So they gave him something. And I think he will grow into the person that I love, like, later on, but I miss it. I'm so conflicted on this one. I think it's a really savvy change for the show, but I miss I'm going to put it in good, just because of my own personal opinion on this, because it's my list. But I do actually think it's probably a very, very smart choice. Aram and the Tinkers. I put them together because I do not like book Aram. I love show Aram. The Tinkers in the books kind of come across as a little bit preachy and annoying, but I really, really like them in the show. I think they present a very good argument for their philosophy. Maria Doyle Kennedy just killed it and knocked it out of the park with that speech. And whoever wrote that, by the way, also really, really good. I think that was a very, very, I'm changing my rating again. I think this is a very smart change because what it does is it gives Perrin a legitimate philosophy. Like, it's making the Tinker's arguments more resonant, gives more credence to Perrin holding back because he spent like a month with them. So, he's holding back his power and his violence later on because of the time that he spent with the Tinkers. Yeah, it works. It works. Okay, here we have the actress who is going to be playing Elaine. For this one, what I'm calling it, no Elaine, no Gawain, no Galad, no Trakans, no Caemlyn. That's basically all this is. For me, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They're coming next. You cannot really expect to hire an actor or actress for one episode in one season and then have a gap between season 1 and 2 and expect them to be able to just not take another job. Like, all of these actors, this is their job. We already actually had this happen. There was an actor hired to play Ingtar. He's in the final episode, but he got another job. So he's not going to be Ingtar in season 2. So they had to do some, you can see it if you know what you're looking for. You can see what they've done. They've changed his name and they've done things to make him not there in next season. Basically, this is a practical. This is not, I don't think, any malicious or intent by omitting this. This is just practicality. Making Moiraine the protagonist, genius change. This is genius. Again, what I think this did was allow season 1 to be much more of an ensemble show, first of all, because she doesn't know who the dragon is, so she is watching all of them, and so we get to watch all of them. It gives more depth to the characters who aren't Rand, first of all. Secondly, for me personally, I've loved it because what it has done is it's given me insight into Moiraine's character that I just never had. She's never been my insert character. I've never tried to see things from her perspective. And seeing everything from her perspective, it's a new outlook on this world I'm really, really enjoying. Thirdly, also, it's Rosamund Pike. Why wouldn't you? Fain not being crab-walky, scuttly, Trolloc cookpot Fain. I think also this is a really, really smart change. Fain, in the books, crab-walky, scuttly Fain, very, very interesting in the books. I think it needs so much exposition, so much explanation that it would take time away from other things. So just having him be this Ordeath version of Fain this early on, I think it's a great change. It also makes him seem more competent. And competent villains are more interesting and compelling, especially on television. You don't want to see... I don't know. I think this is a really, really smart change for the show. He does become this character later on, so it's just making it earlier. He's ominous. He's just getting closer and closer and closer to them all the time. I think this is really, really good. Lan having an adopted family in Malkier. A lot of people are very upset about Lan being able to show emotions. I would encourage you to read the books again. Lan is pretty feisty. He's sassy. Like, Lan's he's not as silent as people think he is. He's more silent than other characters, but he's not as, like, he says a lot. He loses his temper. He recites poetry. Anyway, this is him smiling and laughing with people. I don't, it's nice. To me, it doesn't really impact anything. So it's fine. I called this image Dreams and Bat Vomit, because the dreams in the books and the dreams in the show are different. I will just make a confession. This is me. Other people might be different on this. I don't like the dream sequences in Eye of the World. They go on for a really long time, and when I'm reading, I just like, get to the point. Because I don't like them. They're confusing. I mean, I understand what's happening. I've read the books enough that I understand them, but I find they go on for a really, really long time. So I love that in the show, they are much, much shorter. Changing broken rat backs to bat vomit, to me, doesn't matter, but I like it. It works. Dragging Nynaeve off. This actually got better to me as the episode, like, by episode 7, when Fain says we weren't there to kill you, we were there to, like, bring you to the Dark One. I liked it because it resulted in the awesome Trolloc killing scene, but it got better when there was an explanation for why the Trolloc didn't kill her. He dragged her off. So I think this is a good change. It's weird because it got better in episode 8. Like, I liked it. I always thought it was good. It got better in episode 8 when Fain said that, but then it got worse when they fake out death to her again. And it has been pointed out that Nynaeve does have a fake out death at the end of Eye of the World. So that is true. It's just, I don't like it. I still don't like it. Especially because so many people, like every non-reader I know who watched that, thinks that she died. And thinks that Egwene brought her back from the dead. Apparently there are some who didn't come to that conclusion, but all the ones I've seen, and the ones I know personally, all thought that. So, okay, this image is called Narg Doesn't Speak. Look, I love Narg in the book. I love, Narg no hurt, whatever, Narg smart, very fun. I can't even imagine what that would have been like in the show. It would have just looked dumb. Yeah. Doesn't really affect anything. Good change. All right. The next one is how and when people are aware, or women are aware of other people's ability to channel. This one, I know, okay, it has been confirmed apparently on Twitter by Sarah Nakamura that they consciously made a decision in the show to change it that you are unaware of, women are unaware of other women's ability to channel unless they are actively channeling, which is how men are with the channeling. So there is some precedent in the books, and changing some of the differences between men and women, I think, simplifies things quite a bit for the show. So I would be okay with that, except it makes me I'm confused. I'm very, very confused because Moiraine seems to know that Egwene can channel. Like, when she talks to Egwene that day, she says, women like you and I are lucky enough to be able to touch the power. She doesn't say, I think you, like, she knows that Egwene can channel. That's why she takes her aside to train her. She tells Nynaeve that she thinks she's strong, which seems to indicate that she thinks that Nynaeve is a strong channeler, but then she says in the White Tower, I was unaware that she could channel. Like, she says that outright. If she was unaware that Nynaeve could channel, how was she aware that Egwene could channel enough to start to teach her that she could channel? And how is she aware of Egwene's strength? Because Egwene can barely channel at the beginning. She's not strong enough. Like, in the books, women are aware of potential in each other. This one, for me, I'm putting this one down here as, so far, I don't think it affects anything. I don't particularly like it, but this is very much a wait and see. I could like it later. It could work. Right now, it's like an itch in my, like, it's an itch I can't scratch because things are contradicting each other, and I don't like what the contradiction, I don't like it. Amelisa and Agomar's death. First of all, I don't think Agomar is dead. I just don't. They didn't show him dying. They showed him looking down at the sword that was, or the spear that was impaling his chest, and then they cut to another scene. I've watched too much TV. I don't think he's dead until they show me his corpse. Aes Sedai, do not care. She does not matter. Yeah. Weep for Manetheren, when and how the story was told. This, genius. I didn't think we were going to get Weep to Manetheren. I said that several times before. I do not think we could get Weep for Manetheren like in the books. Like, if you, like, Google it, you can look on YouTube and hear Kate Redding read that speech. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes. You can't get that in the show. You can't get a 10 to 15 minute monologue in the show. Now, they could have done flashbacks and stuff, but that, I don't know. I didn't think we would get it. I love what we got, and because of that, I'm putting it up here in Savvy, because I think they did it in the best way possible. Do not think it would have been possible if we didn't have Rosamund Pike, because she was able to keep you engaged in her literally just telling a story. Liandrin! Oh, this, I love this change. I love it. She is, oh, nope. Up here. My favorite change for the show, from the show. I love how Liandrin is realized in the show. She is so interesting. Liandrin in the books, I think, was very, very smart of Robert Jordan the way he did it, because she's a mustache twirling villain in the books, and so it primes you when reading to think, oh, all the villains are going to be awful, horrible people who I hate immediately, which is just not the case. And so that it primes you to be shocked later on. But in the show, she has nuance. She is so interesting. She's captivating. We got the perfect actress, Kate Fleetwood, in this role. I love it. I love the fact that there are moments when I empathize with her. It's, oh, I love Liandrin in the show. Sister Strongjaws, man. Oh, yes. This next change here is the change to linking magic canon, basically that there is no buffer. I was right, by the way. In the books, there is a buffer when you link so that you cannot be burnt out. I think this is a change that doesn't really matter, because linking does happen in the books, but it doesn't happen that much. So, sorry, I'm just remembering a conversation that happened, I think on Discord, maybe somewhere else, where somebody pointed out that this actually, okay, sorry, I'm thinking this through, and I'm thinking it's a change that doesn't really matter, but I think might be smart. Because what it does is it adds danger to linking, because right now what they've shown is that linking is really, really super powerful, but that it's dangerous. So what that could mean is in future episodes, when Aes Sedai are in danger, people who hadn't seen this, you can be burnt out from linking. There is a risk to it. Will be like, well, why don't they just link? If you link, you can kill 20,000 Trollocs, so just link. My goodness. They've shown that linking is dangerous, especially for the people who are not leading the link. So it's going to make linking a much more significant thing when it happens. So now that I think about it, actually changing my rating from my yesterday recording, that I think it's a good change. Actually, now I'm talking myself into putting it up here. Soiree. Oh, yes, this is an excellent change for the show. This is second so far, only to Liandrin. I think this is fantastic. For those who think that this is a big change from the books, it's actually not as big a change as you think it is, because they are canon. They were a couple in New Spring, and if you don't think they were, read it again. Read what Robert Jordan said about what pillow friends are. It is pretty clear. Like, this is not even, I'm not even inferring. They are a couple. They just sort of stop being a couple when they are raised to Aes Sedai. We don't really ever get a breakup between them. It's dumb. So now they are still a couple, and it works. What this means for the future with other relationships with, say, Tom or Gareth, I don't know. I personally hate both of those romances. I don't hate the characters. I just don't like the pairings. And so if they go by the wayside, I would be okay with that. Because those relationships literally add nothing. They add nothing to the story at all. So, yeah. The Oath Rod. Okay. Now this was a bone of contention, because if you've read the books, later on, the adding an extra oath is literally a plot line. Like, people adding an extra oath, wanting to add an extra oath is shown as a sign of an Amerlin grasping for power. Basically, it's a bad thing for an Amerlin to do. But I had a suspicion before the show came out when they showed this in the trailer as to what this was, the purpose of this. And I think I've been proven right. I thought that they were going to show Moiraine taking an oath, whatever the oath would be, in order to prove to people who have not read the books that Aes Sedai oaths are binding because of this magic. And I think at least 2, possibly 3, I'm trying to remember, but at least 2 of the non-reader reaction videos that I've watched have said that outright when they were watching. It's like, oh, okay, Moiraine wasn't lying. Because giving us the show, like making Moiraine the protagonist, a lot of people, like, it seems to be about half and half with non-readers of people who just trust her implicitly and people who are suspicious of her. So if you're suspicious of her and then she tells you that she can't lie, you're not going to believe that. That doesn't really come across as honest because you're already suspicious of her. So they needed to show that, no, it's true. Oaths are binding. This to me felt like it's excessive. It's unnecessary. I said I don't need to be taking oaths on the oath rod if they already have taken the oath to speak no word that is not true. But it served the purpose that I think it was there for. So, yeah. I don't think it particularly matters, but oh, go. I like it. Because I think it was successful, and it's not working. There we go. Min. Being introduced later, different location, does not matter. Literally, does not matter. She serves the same function. She's actually in the show more than she is in the books. It's fine. Change to the Waygates. I don't think the Waygates are as changed as I initially thought. Based on the episode stills, we do see this image of Padan Fain with a trefoil leaf. So I think that the trefoil leaf is still there. I just think this is something that is going to be explained later. I have a theory about it. I think that perhaps the ways were closed because they were dangerous, but the Aes Sedai can still go into them. But there's still the trefoil leaf that can open them, and somehow the Darkfriends have gotten a hold of it. That's my theory. Whatever. I don't think this particularly matters. All right. Everything shut down, starting recording again. This recording is cursed. Okay. Next one. Machin Shin. I think that the change here with Machin Shin was genius. I think this was such a smart change for the show because it gave us access to the characters' thoughts. Just their fears, just their negative thoughts. But the change in medium means that we don't get this access, so this was perfect. As much as I was kind of terrified, but also looking forward to the gross Machin Shin, this was a much smarter way to go for the show. It worked. Oh, dogs and cats! Okay, I'm trying to remember what this one was. I added this one for today because somebody put it in my Discord. And yeah, this is a change to canon. In the books, it is canon that cats like female channelers and dogs like male channelers. And I have to tell you, I kind of always hated that in the books because it reminded me of that thing from Community when Donald Glover's character, Troy says that everybody knows that dogs are boys and cats are girls, right? Like, it's such a juvenile bit of canon. I can imagine myself trying to explain that to somebody that, no, in the books, cats like girl magic and dogs like boy magic. It feels like I am a child explaining that. So I like that this is no longer show canon. Plus, it gives us Moiraine sleeping with Jetty every night while she was while she was a novice. This is a change. I don't think it matters at all. I like it. Guitara. This change was very interesting to me because this is a change to canon, to change to how the magic works. Although apparently not. I have not read this. Okay, what the change is that Guitara is blind, but she's an Aes Sedai. And in the books, it appears like we don't ever really see anybody channel while they can't. Any female channeler, they need to be able to see their weaves while they channel. Now, apparently, Robert Jordan did say that a blind person would be able to channel. So, okay. It's maybe not a change to canon, but we don't ever see it. Yeah, I will say part of me, I'm of two minds on this because part of it's leaning into a trope that is a bit, I know people get triggered by this word. People call me a snowflake and then they get triggered by the word problematic. But whatever, okay. It leans into a problematic trope of blind people having an extra sight. Like, no, she's blind, but she can see into the future. Like, that's a bit of a problematic trope. But it also then gives us the idea that physically disabled people are still able to be magic. So I'm splitting the difference. I'm saying this is a change that doesn't matter. like, the only reason it ended up on this list is because it got me thinking. My mind was whirling on this one. Okay, consolidating all the Dark Friends into Dana, into one. Obviously, I think anybody with any mind, any brain, knew that they were going to have to consolidate all those Dark Friends that Matt and Rand meet on the road, because there were a lot of them, and that on the road part goes on for a very long time in the books. So they had to consolidate them. I will just point out, for all the people who think that the show is degrading men, sorry, it's such a nonsense argument. The fact that they consolidated all the Dark Friends into a female does not ever come into their minds at all. But okay, I think this was really, really smart, especially because I think Dana was so good. Like, the actress, I don't know her name. I should look at it. Whatever. She was amazing. She was absolutely gripping. I was completely thrown off my game watching this. Like, I didn't see it coming. It was so good. Everything about it. Everything about it was perfect. I really liked that. Actually, and now I'm thinking about it, I'm putting her up in super excellent. Aemon Valda and the Whitecloaks basically just being a legitimate threat. I think also this is a really, really good change for the show. I think actually I'm going to put this one up even higher. It's not as high as Soirein. I love Soirein. But I think this is a really good change for the show because it makes things more tense. It just adds more tension. They are a legitimate threat. It makes the world seem scarier. All right, next point here is Latra. In the books, Luz Theron is the Tamerlan seat in the Age of Legends. In the show, it is Latra. And I know people are using this as a point on their list of evidence as to the show's biasing against men. I think there's actually a much easier, probably much more logical explanation, and that is they needed a reason for her to call him Dragon. They needed a reason for her to use his title while talking to him, and the best way to do that was to have him use her title to her. That is natural. Like, if I'm talking to somebody and I suddenly call them, they are an engineer, and I suddenly call them an engineer, they would call me teacher back, because that's, how people converse. So I think that's what that was. I don't think it matters. Like, it literally has no impact on the current timeline as to, who was Tamerlan in the Age of Legends has literally no impact on anything. But I think that's the explanation. I don't think that you need to look for malice in this. I think it was just them putting the puzzle pieces together when writing the script of, we need her to say dragon. How can we get her to say dragon? If he says Tamerlan, she'll say dragon. Boom. Okay. Next one here is dragon. Okay. I'm using the word dragon because that's what I wish they'd said. What she said was Dragon Reborn. This, again, is one of those changes, sorry for the loud motorcycle, one of those changes that I don't think matters. I don't think it actually will have ripple effects out, but it's a change to the deep lore of the books, that it's a change to the lore of, like, when the age that came at birth, even the legend is forgotten. This, calling him Dragon Reborn implies that in every age, they know that there's a dragon and that the dragon has been reborn. It's a change to the idea, like, there's 7 ages, and by the time this age comes back, we don't know what the dragon is anymore, but it's gonna happen again. Like, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter. I know this doesn't matter. I know it's not gonna change anything, and I still don't like it. I don't know why. It's just, no, but the deep lore. So, unlike the others where I think a wait and see they could improve, this is one that I don't think it's gonna wait and see because I don't think it's gonna change anything, but I just don't like it. Moiraine's shielding. Now, first of all, I'm going to just say I'm 100% certain that it's a shielding, not a stilling. Like, even the image that I've chosen here, it's a shield. I know people say that Rafe said it. I don't think he did. I think the interviewer said it. People are saying that Brandon Sanderson said it. Even if he said it outright, I don't believe it. I'm like 100% certain that she is shielded. I think this is a very good change for the show. For the same reason that, you didn't have Elaine Tricand show up for like a 10-minute scene in episode 3. You need something for Rosamund Pike and Daniel Henney to do in season 2. Like, literally, when this happened, the very first thought I had in my head was, oh my god, what's she gonna do? And then the second thought I had in my head was, oh, that's why they did that. Because she needs something to do. Because in book 2, what does Moiraine do? She reads books. And then she shows up in the last chapter. Like, this is something for her to do. And it's interesting, and it's compelling. Yay. Next one on my list here, I have an image of a Drakkar. Basically, this is just no Drakkar yet so far. No, Carrion, Eyes of the Dark One. There wasn't that Raven search thing. This, for me, I'm gonna say for right now, this doesn't matter. This could change. Oh, go. This could go further down the list, but what I think is happening is basically they're going to be scaling up, right? They've introduced 2 different types of Shadowspawn in the first season. They could introduce different ones later on. Like next season, we could get the Drakkar, and then, or no, next season maybe Darkhounds. Drakkar could come later, because Drakkar are much, like, they do more when, like, he's with the Aiel. There's a couple of Drakkar incidents there. And then, we get Darkhounds, Greymen, like, just, every season or 2 introducing a new type of Shadowspawn. I think that's probably what's going to happen. If they stick with just Trollocs and Fades, I would be disappointed, though, and that would move it down. The next one here, no crazy Ishi. Like, Ishi, or the Dark One, or Ishamael, whatever you want to call him, he seems quite sane here. He's not crazy. This, for me, very personal. Like, some of these I feel like are not quite objective. Obviously, these are all my opinions, but I feel a bit more certain about. For me, this one is entirely personal. I was never attached to crazy Ishi. I don't find him a particularly compelling villain, so him not being out of his mind, perfectly fine. I don't care. Alright, next one here is Nynaeve. Making Nynaeve and Egwene Taveren. I think this is a good change for the show. I will say, I think that would have been a good change for the books, too. I know people will say that they don't need it. That's the argument. Oh, but they don't need it. If you make them Taveren, it removes some of their awesomeness because they get to be awesome without it. I find that such a... If you're saying that, then you are also saying that you don't think that Mat, Perrin, and Rand are awesome. Like, Mat is a fan favorite. He's so awesome. He's Taveren. So if you think that adding Taveren to Egwene and Nynaeve makes them less awesome, then you are by definition saying that Mat is not as awesome as you think he is. Like, that is how that works. You cannot just apply it to the girls and then don't apply that to the boys. That's nonsense. Secondly, for me, it breaks the world a bit that there are not female Taveren. Now, I can make it work for the book time period that they made 2 other male Taveren to hide Rand, right? It had to be male Taveren because that's how you were hiding Rand. But even in the canon of the world, like in the companions, in the Big White Book of Bad Art, I only know of one example of a female Taveren, and that does not work with the magic system. The magic system is the male and the female half working equally and in tandem and against each other to power the wheel. That the wheel would only ever spin out male Taveren doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. So there should be female Taveren. And I think it just, for the show, for the books, okay, only male Taveren, but there should be female Taveren throughout history. In the show, I think it makes sense to make them female Taveren during the time of the show. It is more logical. It makes more sense with the world, and it will make it much more palatable for new viewers. Colors versus shawls. I think this is very good. I don't know that they actually are going to do this for the entire show. I can see later on them doing, like, occasionally Aes Sedai not wearing their colors, but only Aes Sedai that we know, because this is a very good shorthand for people who are looking at the show who have not read the books. In the books, people will think about what their Aja is, or they will think about what that other woman's Aja is. You cannot do that. And having people constantly say, oh, hello, Alana Masfani of the Green Aja, would be stupid. Oh my god, that would be stupid. So, having it just be their clothes, I think, I mean, I would have bet on this early on. I think it's smart. Next here is, okay, Nynaeve having her rage channeling power moments come out this soon. This one, I love those moments. Like, I was cheering and almost in tears when they happened on the show. They are fantastic. I will say, after having discussed them a lot, there is some concern, and I do share this concern that this has happened this early. Because, you have to be able to scale up. Now, it is very clear she has literally no control over what she's doing. So you could scale her up in a different way other than power. Scale, like, growing in strength. Strength is not the only way that people grow. So you could have it be that way. I am, like, if you had asked me right after that episode, that would have been definitely an amazing change for the show. I'm moving it down to good at this point, just because because of having discussed this a bit more, I have some concerns. I still really like it, though. It's like a thoroughly enjoyable part of the season, but now when I see it happen, I think, okay, well, what's she gonna do later that is gonna be awesome? Like, how can it be more awesome? Because it should get more awesome, right? This one here is no channeling sickness. And I will say, I don't know that that's not actually true. we do see, for example, we know that he pounded the door down in episode 3, and then in episode 4, we see him, like we hear him talk and be suddenly suspicious of Thom. And then in episode 7, he uses the power in this very shot here to knock the Trolloc off, and then he starts a fight, or gets in a fight with his friends. So there could be some channeling sickness there. But I also think that it's entirely possible that they've omitted it to simplify things, like they, simplifying the magic system a bit. I don't think right now that this matters. I forgot I put this on here. Last one, land butt. Change in the show. Actually, though, it's not. Public baths are a thing in the books. And, like, in Shinar, pretty sure Lan's butt was all over the place in those public baths. That we see like, them going into a bath with the boys. Granted, Moiraine isn't there, but in Eye of the World, he, of all people, would be used to sharing, like, co-ed naked bathing, because he's from the Borderlands. We see that in Shinar, so it's actually not that much of a change from the books. We just they don't ever talk about Lan's butt in the books. So I'm gonna say this is, being a lady-loving lady, I'm going to say it's good. It's not going to go up in superb, but it's going to go in good because I know plenty of people enjoyed that. Okay, so this is my tier list. I'm just going to go over the top ones. Here we have Liandrin, Primo, Supreme Change, Soirain. I know somebody who started reading the books because of seeing gifs of this. They saw gifs of these people kissing, started watching the show, liked it, and picked up the books, and now they are on, I think, book 3. They've read New Spring, Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, and they started book 3. So, like, this drew people in. I know that. So, yes. Whitecloaks, legitimate threat. Yes. Oh, yes. Lan and Nynaeve. Nynaeve's backstory, the Tickers. Yeah. All of these, I think, are amazing changes for the show. I'm just going to go down to the ones I don't like. Yeah, the only one I absolutely hated and I wish didn't happen was Layla. There's other changes that I don't like, but they don't really matter, so they're fine. This is one, it matters, and I don't like it, and I wish it hadn't happened. So yeah, this is my tier list. These are my favorite changes and my least favorite changes. Well, mainly least favorite change. This is my answer to the question, and people who are like, hey, you say you love the books, how can you like the show? This is how. This is the answer to that question. But let me know yours. Let me know your favorite changes in the comments below. Changes you didn't like as well, you can let me know that as well. And if you like my content and you want to support me, please consider checking out my Patreon. I will link to that in the description below. My patrons, I love you. You are amazing. You are all amazing tippers, I've heard, if you live in countries where there's tipping, which, is a nonsense thing in and of itself. But hey, if you live in those countries, I've heard that you're all amazing tippers and you treat customer service people really well. That's my patrons. Come join them. Anyway, and with that, I will end this video here. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!